Absolute pleasure to have a guest on right now. He is the senior NBA writer for Basketball Insider's freelancer for the Associated Press, focusing on the Knicks and the Nets. Michael Scotto, absolute pleasure having you on, man. How's it going?
What's up, guys? My pleasure. How are you?
Good. So, being a Knicks fan, I shouldn't say good, because nothing's going good right now. Last night was probably icing on the cake, the draft lottery, for what really is just a crappy Knicks season. What is your initial reaction to how the Knicks kind of just nicked it up again?
I think, it's funny you say how the Knicks nicked it up again. When we're in the lottery room and we're all sitting down as it happened, a couple of rows back from stage, there was like a collective, "Oh, you gotta be kidding me," from the crowd. And I kind of felt that way too. Heading into the day, I really had a gut feeling that the Knicks were going to move into the top three. That was before I had some chicken parmesan. Then I got to the draft lottery. I had some salmon, and I felt even better about it. And lo and behold, it was fool's gold, unfortunately. But, after the Knicks dropped the spot with the coin flip to Minnesota, to fall another spot back in the draft process, through the lottery, it's just kind of the final nail in the coffin on what's been a very rough New York Knicks season.
Let's talk about the potential draft prospects here as well. Who do you think the Knicks should be picking up here? Where should their focus be?
Well, I think it should be a point guard because there's certainly plenty of them within the top 10 of this draft. I don't think at this point they're going to have a chance to get Lonzo Ball, Markelle Fultz, or De'Aaron Fox. So at that point, you're hoping that you can land either Dennis Smith, point guard from NC State. At his best, he's drawing comparisons to Russell Westbrook. He's a very athletic point guard. Still working on his jump shot, so if he gets that to be consistent, I think the sky's the limit for him. Also, Frankie the Frenchman, he's a guy that we might see. You know what? I got to be honest.
Frankie the Frenchman. I like that nickname, by the way.
I think he's a guy that could certainly be in play for the Knicks at 8. I also look for maybe Charlotte to take a look at him, have a backup point guard for Kemba Walker, just a guy to take the pressure off of him. But, specifically for the Knicks, other than that, there's two other guys that come to mind. I think of Malik Monk of Kentucky because he's such a great shooter. The Knicks could always use more shooting, especially if they're going to try to run the triangle offense for better or worse. And lastly, I would say Jonathan Isaac. If they can get him, they might be able to make the trade for Carmelo Anthony a little bit easier because you can slide Isaac into the 3. And could you imagine pairing him and KP as one of the longest front courts in the NBA at the 3 and the 4?
Tanking has sort of been the scourge of the NBA in the past couple of years. I know a lot of teams look to tank to sort of take advantage of the draft process. You're in the locker room with a lot of these players. What's the general mood amongst the teams when the fans want the teams to tank to increase their draft prospects?
Well, Pete, it's definitely tough. Anytime, I remember after every game, going up to Courtney Lee, you could just see the dejection on his face just from being a guy that came here along with Joakim Noah and Derrick Rose. This team thought that they would be a contender and potentially even a top 4 team in the East if all the cards stacked up correctly.
That's right.
But
that's how they started the season.
It was the polar opposite. And, the biggest thing was, especially being a veteran team, it wasn't like a young team that you thought, okay, well, maybe they're going to go through some growing pains. No, you got veterans on the floor to try and expedite the process and really make a run as a fringe contender and maybe even a dark horse in some people's eyes before the season. It didn't happen. Within the locker room, the players were frustrated. They grew tired of hearing the same questions. And you can just see the agony on their face. They don't want to tank because if they tank, they're potentially giving up their own roster spot to somebody else. Right. And no player ever wants to do that. That's why they, for better or worse, they won those games at the end of the season. They still competed.
It was worse. It was for worse. And I'm speaking as a Knicks fan here, Michael. It was for worse. But I hope Knicks Nation just heard what you said. As a professional basketball player, everyone here has an ego. You're not going to just tank to let a college kid take your place next year. Go ahead, Pete.
Absolutely right. And to build off what you said, it was a veteran team. I think we were all surprised by how the season ended up, considering all the hope we had in the beginning. We're kind of anti-tank up to a certain point, just because we had a lot of new guys on the roster, and we thought that they could probably benefit from the team taking games seriously and getting those guys minutes. So double-edged sword, I guess.
It really is. Now let's talk about the dysfunction of this team, because we had 18 episodes this past season in our inaugural season, and I think about 14 of them were dedicated to how dysfunctional this franchise is. Being a major market team like New York, what are your overall thoughts on the Knicks? But then, you got the crosstown guys who are doing it even a little bit worse than Nets. I don't want to opine too much on them, but really just a major market team failing this badly. We see Boston and the Lakers with 1 and 2 overall picks, and Knicks end up nowhere near that.
Basically, just when you think it's over, something else happened. For example, when they hired Jeff Hornacek, the guy that he replaced, Kurt Rambis, still has a spot on the staff. But that was interesting. Started there, okay.
Yeah.
And Derrick Rose goes missing in action for a game. Then you got the Charles Oakley security incident. You got Kristaps Porzingis skipping an exit meeting. Even off the court, unfortunately, Phil Jackson and Jeannie Buss split up, Carmelo and Lala. And then the pick falls, back a spot with the coin flip. Then the pick falls again on the lottery night. I mean, if this was Mortal Kombat, the video game, they would have been dead a long time ago. And here we are. It's like they're still fighting.
I want to talk to you quickly about the actual draft and the Celtics getting that number 1 overall pick. An Eastern Conference Finals team. If adding insult to injury wasn't enough for Knicks fans, it's the Boston Celtics. They're in the conference finals, and they get the number 1 overall pick. Do they pick Markelle Fultz? Where does Isaiah Thomas go?
Yeah, I think, right now on paper they're going to take Markelle Fultz, but I would not be shocked at all if they dangled it in a trade for potentially Jimmy Butler, depending on how they fare against the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think this is going to be a real litmus test for them to see where they're at, in the Eastern Conference power rankings. If we see this go to maybe a 6 or 7 game series, maybe Boston doesn't think that they're that far off, and they make a swing for Jimmy Butler to try and swing for the fences and really make a run as LeBron slowly, and I mean slowly, begins to age.
Fascinating stuff. Michael, thanks again for your time, and make sure that you check him out on basketballinsiders.com.